Hey y'all, it's because Mama said so, and it's finally freezer cooking day. All right, it is freezer cooking weekend. I have got my paper all ready to go. We are going to do, I think it's around 22 or 24 freezer meals for my family for the next few weeks. I have approved all of the meals. Everybody's really excited about them, and so I have been spending, last night I cooked 32 pounds of meat, a combination of chicken and ground beef, and I've cut my vegetables and I've been doing prep work, and so here we go. Let's get into it. Our first recipe we're going to make is called double up pasta sauce. I like this recipe because it makes enough pasta sauce for at least 2 recipes, or you can freeze it to have some for regular spaghetti in bulk. But we're making it today because we'll be using it here in a second in our baked ziti recipe. This is a super simple recipe. It just makes a lot of really good pasta sauce. We're going to add crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, a can of jarred pasta sauce, and then I like to add a little jar of pesto to this. I have added the red pesto and the green pesto, and both of them are very, very good. Watch me as I struggle to get the pesto out of the jar. Finally, I give up and go get a spoon that will actually fit into the jar. Once we add our pesto, we're actually going to add some ground beef to this, and then onion powder, garlic powder, parsley, basil, oregano, salt, and pepper. And then we'll get that all mixed up and combined. It's a super simple recipe. I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. I find that it kind of deepens the tomato flavor in the sauce, giving it the illusion that you cooked it all day. But this is something my family absolutely loves, and it is so good in the baked ziti that we're about to make. Throughout this video, I'm going to be making several different recipes, and they're all intended to be super simple recipes. You can make them healthier if you want to by doing different things. You can use fresh tomatoes instead of canned tomatoes. In some of the recipes, we're actually going to use some of the cream of soups. If you're a person who's been around here, you know I have recipes for homemade cream of soups, and I know how to do it, and I can, and I have, but I am, for the sake of this freezer cooking, so that way I'm not standing over the stove for too long, I'm actually going to use canned cream of soups in some different recipes. But feel free to modify these any way you want to. I'll have all of the recipes down in the description below, so you can go through and make them yourself. We've got some freezer meals that we're going to be making that are for crock pot. We've got some that are going to be casseroles. We have some that have things that need to be added to them on cooking day, and some of them that are just all ready to go the day that you need to use them. In order to use these meals, you're going to want to defrost them in the fridge the night before you decide to use them. Now that we've completed our double up pasta sauce, which is a pasta sauce that gives you 2 meals worth of sauce, we're going to start on our baked ziti. As you can see, I've added ricotta to my bowl, and now I'm adding mozzarella cheese. Then we'll add salt, pepper, parsley, parmesan, and 2 eggs and mix that up. This will be the cheesy component in our baked ziti. Now, when I make my baked ziti, I layer it almost kind of like a loose lasagna, because I like to have some of those big chunks of cheese in my ziti. I like to be able to bite into them and taste the ricotta and taste the mozzarella and parmesan throughout the sauce. So we're going to get those combined. As I said earlier, you're going to have to defrost these usually the day before, but you can just pull them out of the freezer and put them in the oven and bake them, but it would usually take about an hour longer. So it's just a lot easier if you thaw them out, then put them in the oven and bake according to regular directions. Like I said, all of the recipes will be down in the bottom in the description so that you can make them yourselves. The recipes in the bottom are the versions of these that are usually single recipe, unless it specifies that it's a 1 for now, 1 for later, because I am making 2 of each of these 10 recipes that I'm making today. As you can see, I added a little bit of sauce to my noodles, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of the cheese mixture to my noodles as well. And then we'll start layering up our ziti. As we finish assembling this ziti, I'm going to go ahead and top it with mozzarella cheese, and then I'm going to walk you through the process of how I wrap these meals so we don't worry about freezer burn. I have put meals in the freezer and taken them out 6 months to a year later, and they're just fine. I haven't had any issues or problems, and they tasted great. But I think part of it is Jay Morrell taught me how to double wrap my meals. She's a freezer food YouTuber, and she is amazing. But as you see, we're going to take foil and we're going to wrap it up, and then we're going to wrap it with plastic wrap from both directions in order to make sure that it's nice and sealed. We'll make sure to write on the top of it what it is and any instructions that we need for cooking day. For this specific one, we don't need to add anything on cooking day, and I'll have the recipe, so I don't need to write any additional notes or anything. But if you were giving this to somebody, this would be a great place to put a label on instructions on how to make it the day of, how to thaw it out, and how to cook it, and the temperature and the timing. But since I know all of these things, I am not doing that for my family because I know what I need to do with it. This will be the only wrapping I will show you because I don't want to bore you with lots of foil and lots of plastic wrap. Next, we're going to be working on our creamy chicken soup, and I am going to be doing these in gallon Ziploc baggies, and this is going to be for the crock pot. Label your bags before you put your stuff in them. Believe me, I have done it the other way around, and I have told myself it'll be fine, and it's never fine. Just do it ahead of time. In our bags, we have 7 to 8 chicken thighs. The recipe calls for chicken breasts, but I had thighs, so that's what I used. And we're going to add carrots and onion and celery, which is the perfect base for a chicken soup. And then I'm going to add a can of cream of chicken soup to each of them. We're going to season them up. Like I said, the recipe will be down in the description, so that way you know exactly what seasonings and how much I'm using. I do tend to measure with my soul, but I do have exact measurements in those recipes. I did put a canned cream of mushroom soup in this. Again, you can make your own. I have recipes, as a matter of fact, down in the description. There is a recipe for homemade cream of chicken soup if you wanted to do that. That is totally up to you. I took the easy shortcut because I was doing so much at once. Our next recipe is crock pot beef broccoli. I have got about a pound and a half of stew meat in each bag, and I am adding a little bit of garlic, some soy sauce, a little bit of sesame seed oil. I love sesame seed oil, but some people find it a little strong, but I can't get enough of it. Then we're going to add some onions to each bag, and we're also going to add some ginger. You can do fresh minced ginger, or I actually bought the paste. I like it just as much as I like the fresh ginger, and it's super easy and easy cleanup. Another tip while you're doing these recipes is to have a Walmart bag right next to you to put any trash that you have, so that way when you're done, you can just pick it up and pitch it without having to do a lot of heavy cleanup. I find that freezer cooking can get really, really messy, and so that's why I have learned to do that. I have learned to have some sort of a bag on hand in order to make easy cleanup. Right now we are going to start working on our shepherd's pie mashed potatoes. This is a garlic cheddar mashed potato topping that we're going to put on. And so I went ahead and started peeling and dicing the potatoes so that way while I'm working on the recipe in between, they can be boiling and getting ready for that. The best thing to do when you're freezer cooking is kind of think about where there is dead time. Like if you have pasta boiling, can you be working on something else? If you have potatoes boiling, is there something else that you could be doing in between? Like assembling some of these crock pot meals are just kind of throw and go. So those things can be going on in the background. Another thing that helps a lot is to do a prep day before your actual freezer cooking day. So that way your onions are chopped, your veggies are chopped, your meat is cooked, possibly your pasta is cooked. I feel like I never have any luck with my pasta not sticking together, so I usually do it fresh the day that I do my freezer cooking, but I have seen where people have been able to do their pasta and have it to not be sticky. So the more prep work that you can do before you start, the faster that these assemblies will go, because you're just basically putting things together and all of it is right there waiting. Another thing that's very helpful is to have whatever you need for a recipe out in front of you, so that way you don't have to get up and make a lot of trips around the kitchen, and you can sit and kind of quietly and gently and relaxing put together your meals. While the potatoes are boiling, I'm going to go ahead and work on our crock pot beef stroganoff recipe. I'm going to go ahead and label my bags. The day of the cooking, when I actually put it in the crock pot before serving, I'll be adding egg noodles and sour cream to this particular dish, but I'm not going to put all of that in the freezer bags. This is a really simple combined recipe. I've added cream of mushroom, salt, pepper, parsley. I've got my ground beef, and then I'll add beef stock to it as well. This is such a simple recipe, but it is so delicious, especially when you serve it with the egg noodles and then you add the sour cream. It is so delicious and so simple. This is definitely a crowd favorite for the family. Now we're on to our shepherd's pie. I feel like I was laughing because I told my husband, I feel like I have made mashed potatoes 9 times on my channel over the last 6 weeks or so with the holidays and everything. But this is a little bit different mashed potato. I am making a cheddar garlic mashed potato. As you saw, I've added cream cheese and butter to it. The more fat you add to your potatoes, the better they freeze. And so I am adding that. Then I'm going to add some sour cream and some cheddar. I'll be doing salt, pepper, and seasoning salt for my seasonings. And we'll just mash this up really good until it's got a nice, you can mash it up as much or as little as you want. Some people like a little bit of texture and some people want it absolutely silky smooth. Now that our potatoes are done, we're going to do our beef mixture. I have got 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef in my bowl, and I am going to add a large can of tomato sauce. Then from there, we're going to add the rest of our ingredients for our shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is a family favorite, and it's so hearty. We add vegetables to it. It's got the meat, it's got the sauce, and then when you top it with those amazing garlic cheddar mashed potatoes, it is absolutely delicious. I had a little bit of the mashed potatoes left over, and I thought, oh no, they're going to go to waste, but I should have known. My husband walked in and took a spoon and finished them off. It is so good, and everyone really loves this one. Once we get all of this combined, then we'll get out our foil pans and we'll do a layer of meat and a layer of mashed potatoes. It's so funny because I really thought that I was making enough that I would get 3 foil pans out of this, and my husband was like so excited about it. But as I start shelling this out into foil pans, I realize I have the perfect amount for 2 9x13 pans. And with those leftover mashed potatoes, we had just a little bit, and of course those didn't go to waste. They got eaten. But this is such an awesome hearty recipe. Everyone in my family loves it. Here I am getting out my foil pans. First, I have to make some room. That's the thing with freezer cooking. You always wind up with a little cluster of stuff around you, and you're constantly wiping down counters and trying to make space for yourself in order to be able to do the things that you need to do. What you don't see in the background here is I have a dog sitting by my feet that is constantly, and I mean constantly, hoping that I drop something for him to eat. He's such a sweet boy, but I'm telling you, he is hoping that I drop this whole pile of meat on the floor. He's just sitting there kind of whimpering at my feet. Freezer cooking can be a really, really messy process. That's why I write everything out on a notebook as far as what recipes I'm going to do, what order I'm going to do them in, and then I break it down even further into how much I need to prep, how much I need to organize, what needs to be out, and I also try and clean up between every single recipe, because if you don't, you wind up with an entire cluster of just things that need to be washed, things that need to be thrown in the trash, and then it winds up giving you kind of like this feeling that you don't want to freezer cook because it's such a colossal mess. I have done it both ways, where I have just worked straight through and not cleaned in between, and I can just tell you that it makes daylight and dark difference when you clean in between and you have a plan ready to go to be able to get things done. The shepherd's pie is one of those recipes that on cooking day, there will be nothing that I have to do. I can literally just take this out the night before and then pop it in the oven when I get off work. And usually at about 45 minutes or so, it'll be nice and bubbly. If you have a digital thermometer, it's nice to kind of poke it into the middle of your casseroles to make sure that they've come up to temperature, usually about 165 degrees. Is usually a good place for it to get to in order to know that it's cooked and it's warm all the way through, because nobody wants to accidentally bite into a casserole that's still frozen. Next, I'm going to move on to a creamy kielbasa bake. This one is so delicious. And again, it's one of those that everything is done in this pan, which means on cooking day, there's no adding anything. There's no extra work. It's just thaw it the night before and then throw it in the oven. The first thing we're going to start out with is we're going to do cream of mushroom and cream of chicken soups. Now remember, I said that you can use homemade, and you certainly can, but because I was doing a big cooking day and I wanted to keep things simple, I went ahead and bought the cans. It's totally fine. You can do it and doctor it up however you need to. That's one thing that I love about a lot of these kind of throw and go assemble type recipes, is there's so much flexibility in them. You can fix them whatever way is most convenient for you, and whatever dietary needs you have, whatever works for you. In this particular recipe, I'll be using a pasta, but you honestly could omit the pasta if you wanted to keep this low carb. You could just keep the creams, the sour cream, and the kielbasa and the broccoli and mozzarella, and keep it low carb if you wanted to. But of course, we're adding bow tie. In the recipe, it says to use rotini, but I had bow tie on hand. And again, because you can be flexible with your pasta choices, I chose to use what I had on hand instead of ordering it. When I placed this Walmart pickup order for this entire freezer cooking, the total cost came to about $360, which means that each meal is going to be somewhere around $13 to $15 per meal for my family of 5, which I consider that pretty good. With inflation, used to these types of meals would be about $6 to $10 per meal, but we all know the price of groceries are really, really high right now. But with this kind of cooking, you're able to get the most out of your out of your recipes, you're able to get most out of your budget, and you can plan a little bit better. Since we're doing 20 recipes, I'm actually planning to do about 2 of these a week for about 10 weeks, which is awesome because it will have a lot of our cooking, because I usually cook at least 4 to 5 days in a week. And so this will have at least almost half of the meals planned and ready and organized. And because I did a wide variety of meals, they won't get boring, which is something sometimes people ask when you do freezer meals, is if your family gets bored with having the same things. But if you make 10 different recipes and you have them, over 10 weeks, by the time you get to the last recipe, nobody remembered that you had it 2 months ago. But I always choose family favorites to make, because if you're going to have it and you're going to have it multiple times, you want to make sure it's something that people absolutely love. And these are definitely family favorites. Here, before I go ahead and put my foil and saran wrap on, I am making sure that they're about even. You can eyeball this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to make sure that it's about to the top of your pan and not too terribly full, because when you stack them in the freezer and when you pull them out, you want to make sure that everything fits nicely inside your 9x13 pan. I actually got these foil pans at the $1.25 store. They were 2 for $1.25, which made them... I got 16 sets, which made them cheaper than it was at Walmart. Walmart was going to be almost $30 for these, so there's savings. This is one of my absolute favorites. It is such comfort food. This is tuna noodle casserole. Now on this one, there will be things that you do on cooking day. After it's thawed and everything, you will add butter, coated Ritz crackers on top to add kind of like a crunchy topping. You don't have to do that. You could just defrost this and put it straight into the oven and eat it just that way, and it is perfectly good and it is so delicious. But I do like to add the crunchy topping on the cooking day because it's just absolutely so delicious. Who doesn't love Ritz crackers in butter? Where is my inner Paula Deen today, right? So I've just added my cream of soups and my frozen vegetables, and I'm going to add 8 cans of tuna. Now, I have drained this tuna, and I have reserved the juice to the side, and I added a cup of milk to it, and that will actually get added back into this casserole once we add the noodles, because it makes it easier to stir, and it ups the moisture in it. Plus, if you're going to buy the tuna juice, you might as well use it in your tuna casserole, because it just ups the amp on that nice tuna flavor. Another freezer cooking tip that I can offer you is that if it's at all possible, and I know not everybody has this opportunity, but if at all possible, have another person there that can help you if you need them to run and grab something for you, or if you have a couple of bowls that you need washed. I like this large bowl for mixing large casseroles, and so in between my casseroles, I take it to the sink and rinse it out, or I've got my husband there who occasionally comes in, and if I need him to grab another can of something, or if I need him to open something for me in order to make this filming easier for you guys. But it does help if there is another warm body who is willing to help you with little odds and end tasks to make everything go smoothly. Again, I know not everybody has that, and if you don't have that, don't be discouraged from, working and doing some casseroles and doing some freezer cooking. Just know that if you do have it, it is nice to have that. So as you can see, I have got my tuna, my cream of soups, my sour cream, and my vegetables, and I am adding that milk and the tuna juice. Now we're going to add some cheese, because this is a cheesy tuna noodle casserole, which is absolutely delicious. The noodles that I choose to use in this are actually egg noodles. I like the way that it feels really old-fashioned, and the noodles take on a really great flavor. And so, like I said, I go ahead and in between, I go ahead and start the next batch of noodles so they're fresh. As you can see, it is steaming up my camera, and it is steaming up my face right now. I think I got several steam facials while doing all of this cooking today. But tuna noodle casserole is such a comfort food. If you've never tried it, give it a try. I know sometimes people hear tuna and they get a little freaked out, but it is so delicious and it's so comforting. I know the last time that we had anything where I served this for the need of comfort. My kids were in a car accident. They are a little bit older, and so their driving age, and they were in an accident, and they came home, and I tucked them into bed, and I made them a tuna noodle casserole because I swear this stuff is so good it'll grow back a limb. Fortunately, they were all okay. We had to replace our van, but you know what? I can replace a van. I can't replace kids. So I made them tuna noodle casserole, and they were super happy. So now every time they have it, they think about, all of the nice comfort of having it on that day when they were really, really stressed out and they were worried. And I was worried too, and so I used cooking as therapy. Do you use cooking as therapy? I use cooking sometimes in order to kind of get creative and be able to kind of take a break and just get lost in the moment. It's so much fun to me. Next on our family favorite is a chicken Hawaiian casserole. This casserole has Hawaiian feel to it because it has pineapple in it along with peppers. Here you're going to see my dog is going to get excited about the chicken and knock over my camera. So I'm going to struggle this with one hand for a few minutes until my husband resets it for me. But this casserole is so good. It does have something that is added on cooking day. On cooking day, you're going to fry some bacon and you're going to put the chopped pieces on top of it. Now, we absolutely love this one. And I did a Walmart grocery pickup order for this, and they sent me rings instead of pineapple chunks. So in the recipe, you'll see pineapple chunks, but you're going to see me struggle a little bit trying to chop through the rings and everything, trying to get them bite size. Here I am scooping about 4 or 5 cups of rice. I cooked all of my rice that I needed for this cook up in my Instant Pot. That's another tip. Utilize your crock pots in your Instant Pot. I know for my ground beef and my chicken, I cooked all of my chicken and all of my ground beef overnight in my crock pot. I did set an alarm for a couple of times to get up and just double check it to make sure that it was doing okay. But other than that, it worked perfectly. So while we were upstairs relaxing overnight and, snoozing and sleeping, we were able to get the meat done, and the prep work done was just something I didn't have to take out of my day to do. I love this recipe because it not only has the pineapple, but has the peppers and the onions. And I used a pepper blend, so I didn't even have to chop any of these peppers or these onions. Again, you can do that yourself if you want to. It's completely up to you. But looking for ways to make things a little bit easier when you're doing a big cooking day is another tip. I did reserve a little bit of the pineapple juice when I drained the cans because I will add just a little bit of this to my casserole. As I start to stir it, you can see it is absolutely delicious. It gets so nice and so creamy, and I absolutely love, love, love the pineapple flavor with the chicken. It really does feel like you are having some sort of a special vacation type treat. The pineapple is not overwhelming, and as it cooks down with the chicken, it all becomes a great flavor together. And when you add that bacon on cooking day, oh, it is absolutely wonderful. My daughter Allie, this is one of her favorites. When I said that I was adding this to the menu for my freezer cooking day, she got so excited. And of course, as with all the other recipes, I am making 2 pans of this Hawaiian chicken and rice casserole. One thing I probably should have done was I probably should have had someone help me pour all of these meals into these pans. By the end of this cooking day, my arms were so sore from stirring all of these casseroles and stirring and trying to pour all of these into these tiny little pans from that big gigantic bowl. I feel like every family has some sort of recipe or variation of chicken spaghetti. You can make chicken spaghetti, you can make cheeseburger macaroni spaghetti. You can do a lot of things with spaghetti. Today we're going to use it with chicken, and then I'm going to spice it up with some rotel and some cream of soup, and then we'll also add some sour cream and some cheese, and it is so delicious. Baked spaghetti is one of those things that when you have leftover spaghetti noodles, you can whip up one of these. You can set it in the freezer and have it for another day. You can also do different types of spaghetti. I know we love millionaire spaghetti. I don't know if you've ever tried it. It's where it's layered with the noodles, the meat sauce, and then a cottage cheese mixture over the top with mozzarella. We absolutely love pasta. As you can tell, a lot of my freezer meals have some sort of a pasta base to them.
Now from here, we're going to start adding all of our other ingredients. I've got cream of mushroom soup. As you can see, that one is a little bit different color because that one was actually golden cream of mushroom soup, but I wasn't going to complain. My husband brought it up and I was grateful. From here, we're going to add seasonings like salt, pepper, Tony seasoning. If you're not familiar with Tony seasoning, I grew up in southern Louisiana, and we have this. I mean, it's something that I think that people from Louisiana would put on ice cream if we didn't think people would think we were crazy. But it has a little bit of spice to it. It's got the Creole seasoning, and this is just something that is a staple in a lot of southern kitchens. Now I'm going to add bell peppers. Again, I just used frozen because I had them on hand. I could have done fresh, and you can do fresh, but I had it on hand. You'll probably notice I add a lot of pepper to our meals because, quite frankly, my family really likes pepper. My husband loves a lot of pepper in our food. So when you're looking at a recipe, if you're looking at my recipes or anyone's, always realize that you can adjust those seasonings to your family's preference. If you need a more low sodium diet, you can add little to no salt if you prefer. If you don't really like pepper, you can omit it. If you want to use seasoned salt instead of Tony's, you can be completely flexible with this, which is something that I absolutely love about recipes in general, is the creativity that you can have and how you can customize it down to your family. Here I'm opening a couple cans of Rotel, which those are tomatoes with green chilies, and I'm just going to add the whole can, liquid included, because again, that liquid just gets in there and adds to the moisture level of this recipe. And I don't know if you can tell, but my forearms are burning trying to get this all mixed together and all perfect and ready for the pan. I was able to skip arm day on my right arm in particular because I was literally, at some point, I was actually kind of shaking and I had to take a break because it's a workout. This isn't for the faint of heart. Trying to stir 2 pounds of spaghetti, 5 chicken breasts, and all of these soups and Rotel. But it is so good. Here I'm adding just a little bit of chicken stock, again, to make it a little bit easier to stir. Plus, you don't want your chicken spaghetti to be dry. From here, I will go ahead and add it to the foil pans. Again, here I am clearing the decks once again. Like I said, there's so much that goes into freezer cooking. You find that you're constantly moving and shifting things around. And now you get to watch me struggle with this gigantic bowl, trying to get my spaghetti into the pan without just flopping it all over my lap. I love watching Jay Morrell do her freezer cooking. She will actually take, and she does a lot more at a time. She will do 7 pans of chicken spaghetti as opposed to 2. And I've actually seen her get on a stool and use her hands to mix her chicken spaghetti. I haven't done that yet, but I felt very close to it as I tried to work that spoon through it today. And yay, we have made it to our final recipe. I am about 6 hours in between yesterday and today on this freezer cooking. Again, I could have done it all the way through, but I wanted to be gentle on myself. I wanted to do some of the prep work and maybe a couple of meals, take a break, and then start at it fresh the next day. You could certainly do this all in one day if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. You could spread it out over 3 days. I chose to spread it out over 2. I did about 3 hours yesterday, plus probably the half hour it took into loading my crock pots and Instant Pot doing prep work. And then today it took me right at about 2.5 hours, 3 hours to assemble all of these meals. And again, because I did a lot of the prep work of cooking the meat and chopping the vegetables, and because I made sure to have all of my ingredients in front of me, I was able to flow pretty easily. Again, I have done freezer cooking where I didn't do that, and it was more chaotic, and it took me longer, and it was a lot more stressful. And my kitchen looks like it had been blown up afterwards. But today, because I tried to stay on top of cleaning in between, the kitchen was not crazy. There are some dishes that need to be done, But overall, it was kind of relaxing. I just put on music. And that's something that's another tip too. Put on music, put on a movie, put on ear pods, and, listen to a podcast that you really enjoy. And just kind of get to a place where you're really kind of falling in love with the simplicity of creating meals for your family, creating meals for yourself. It really is relaxing if you allow yourself really to get into it. So as you can see, we have added sour cream, we have added rice and broccoli and cheese and cream of chicken soup, and I'm seasoning it with salt, pepper, and Tony's. This salt, pepper, and Tony's, I swear, is probably like the base for like 85% of my recipe seasonings, because it's just so good and it adds so much flavor. Tony's seasoning has such a variety of seasonings within it that it can basically cover any seasoning that you want to have or want to add into. Kind of similar to seasoned salt, only a little spicier. And now we're going to add this into our foil pans and get them wrapped up. Here in a second, I will show you all of my wrapped up recipes. I wound up doing 20, 7 recipes that were casseroles in foil pans, and I believe 3 different recipes that wound up being done in freezer bags, because they are crock pot freezer meals that you just transfer to the crock pot day of. I have all of the recipes posted down in the description, so you can go through and you can look and see which ones you would like to try and kind of get an idea of what they look like in this video. I would love to know what you guys like to do as far as freezer cooking. Do you freezer cook? Do you like to do it? Do you find it stressful or overwhelming? Are you someone that does a big bulk freezer cooking time? Or are you someone that likes to do kind of a, when you make your dinner, make one for now and one for later? But here you can see I've got my bags, I've got my pans, and they're all starting to stack up, and my freezer is stocked and looks amazing. Thank you so much for coming with me today. Thank you for being with me during all of this freezer cooking. I would love for you to like, share, and subscribe. I would also love for you to go to the link and go to my Facebook, my TikTok, or my Instagram, and also see what else Mama's up to. Take care of yourself, your precious cargo. Why? Because Mama said so.